Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of our virtual book club. If you would please make sure that you take this moment to share, as we are going to have another outstanding author that will be sharing with us. So, if you would please make sure you click the share button, start a watch party. If you have any comments, won't you leave it right in the comment section? And also make sure that you don't take it for granted that every Tuesday at 6 o'clock, we do this virtual book club so that you can have something to do with your time during this pandemic. So sharing with us today, we have another author, uh, and we want you to welcome even now. Angela Scott Abdur Rasheed is with us. Angela, how are you?
I am good. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming and joining us. Well, for the people who are watching, would you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, so I'm Angela Scott Abdur Rashid, born in Montgomery but raised in Birmingham, so I claim both. Went to local schools here, went to college at UA, and thought that I was going to spend the rest of my life doing broadcasting, and life was like, nope, got something better to get you there to where you're supposed to go. And so I really have spent the last 20, 25 years discovering who I am and my purpose and the reason God created me. One of those reasons I tell people all the time, I'm not athletic, I'm not into arts and crafts, but I love words. I love speaking words. I love the power of words. I love writing words. And so, out of all that I've endured in my life, I've, especially since college, since I'm talking about that, I've taken all of that and written about it in this book to hopefully remind people now, especially during this pandemic, that life truly does get better, even when our plans do not go the way that we want them to.
All right. Well, let's talk about your book. Life Gets Better.
Mhm.
How did you come up with the process of writing the book Life Gets Better?
I came up with this process through, I think, one of the lowest moments of pain that I experienced. Back in 2010, my husband at the time decided he didn't want to be married to me anymore. I know I'm not the only person that has happened to. But again, because of my love for words, rather than unhealthily deal with what I was dealing with, I decided to write about it. And so
Mhm.
I started blogging on a blog post called Life Gets Better that still exists. And I just talked about everything from my faith to divorce and all of the ugly and uglier parts of divorce, healing, trusting in God, the importance of friendship, money, just anything that would come to mind. I used that time to write about it. And so I have accumulated since 2010 950 blog posts. And they were just
Wow.
living out there on the internet. And God was like, what are you going to do with them? And so I pulled some of them, nowhere near the 950, but pulled some of them and decided last year, 2019, to put them in a book and
Mhm.
call it Life Gets Better. Well, I started it and I don't know, got busy, forgot about it, didn't think it would be important, talked myself out of it, and really didn't give it the attention that it needed. And during the pandemic, just, it would not go away. I kept thinking about this book and thinking about this book. And so around about April, I just decided to finish it. And so from August of 2010, when my divorce decree was signed and I started blogging, up until 10 years later, It has turned into a book that I know blessed me in writing it. It kept me sane. It kept me focused on my faith. It kept me out of trouble. It kept me from a lot of things that my flesh would have wanted me to do out of pain. And so I've taken those words and put it in a book so that it can help other people, regardless of what they're going through when they experience loss or disappointment, or when life says, nope, got something else, something better in store. It may not feel like it, but life gets better.
All right, good. Well, let's dive into some of your book, Life Gets Better. Dealing with your prologue, you talked about how you have gone through some loss. There's some people who are watching here who may have gone through loss. Let's deal with some of the challenges that you have went through regarding loss.
Yeah. So for me, I think in that prologue, especially, the reason I wanted to be so transparent, and I'm accused often of telling too much of my business, and I consider that a compliment because I believe in the power of our testimony. That is why we're here, to help somebody with what we're going through and have gone through. And for me, loss has been a part of my life, unfortunately, for a very long time. Even from high school, my first boyfriend was murdered.
Wow.
And I can remember so almost naturally being devastated, but then pretending like everything was okay. And that set a course for me of trying to craft and control my life, knowing that it's not mine to control, and doing a disservice to myself in that regard, not allowing people in, not allowing people to know that I am hurting or that I need help, trying to pretend like everything was perfect when it was not. And so as I was writing this book, I thought about, like, how did this habit come? And it really came my junior year in high school at Ramsey High School, when my first love was murdered. And I was devastated. But then that same year, that next year, I was voted most poised. And so that makes no sense, because I was not poised. I was going home after school, falling down the door, crying every single day, but there was nothing in me that felt comfortable in saying, I am hurting, I need help, to people on the outside world. And I think sometimes when we go through hurt, we don't allow people in. We don't allow the blessings that God has through other people to walk along that journey with us.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing because a lot of times we find ourselves suffering in silence, right?
Suffering in silence.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's to our detriment. I think we go crazier, right? Trying to keep it all to yourself.
Yes.
So at what point so was writing for you therapeutic in a way? Because
Absolutely.
it got it out of you?
Absolutely. It again, it saved my life. I joke, I've never been in a physical fight a day in my life. I will never, I'm too old for that. But there's a feistiness in me. And so, our natural response sometimes when things happen is to use our words to get back or tell our side. And God was like, be silent. And especially with my divorce from my first husband, when he left, he was a pastor, and I worked in full-time ministry with him for 9 years. And I loved that part of my life. And so my natural response was, it's not fair. It's not fair. And God was like, go, nope, nope, nope. Write it out, pray it out, give it to me. But you will not become that bitter woman that we all know that is still stuck at her last breakup or her last disappointment. And you see them coming, and all they are talking about is what somebody did to hurt them. Life is so much better than any pain that we've experienced. And so for me, going through counseling, going through small groups, talking, but then being able to write about it to help other people was absolutely therapeutic.
Good. Now, you also talk about stagnant dreams. How did we get to your dreams being stagnated?
Yeah, so I told you, I went to school. I thought I was going to be on TV for the rest of my life. That was all I wanted to do from age 8 until I decided, okay, God, I'll do what you want me to do. But I think for me, it's digesting and appreciating Romans 8:28, that all things work together. And so I had dreams. I never thought that anybody that knows me, you could ask, hey, Angela will be married to one husband for the 60 years. They'll have children. She'll be doing amazing things, and I am, but I'm married to my second husband, whom I love so dearly. I
Right.
don't have children from my first marriage because God didn't see fit for that to happen. So when we get into the level of placing God into our box, on
Yeah.
our calendar, on our planner, and I'm a planner by nature, so I
Right.
wanted God to do this, that, and then some, and
Hmm.
He was like, nope, nope, and double nope. I have a resume, unfortunately, that spiritual resume at least, that again, I hate to be cliche, reminds people that life gets better.
Right.
All of the things that I thought were the be all to end all of the things that I thought I absolutely had to have, all the titles that I thought I needed or wanted, did not stop his purpose. It did not define me, and it has not limited the possibilities that he's had after those things either didn't come or they came and he decided, I don't want that to stay.
Right. 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 So, so in fulfilling some of your dreams that may have been stagnant, you also talk about experiencing some financial lack,
Hmm.
which sometimes with pursuing your dreams, sometimes you go through the lack as well,
Yeah.
right? Talk
Hmm.
about that.
So divorce brings about financial lack. You have two people
Yeah.
in one household operating out of two pots, hopefully together. And anytime there's a breach of a marriage, it's not just that union, it's the financial ties. I worked for my ex-husband. And so at the time that he decided he didn't want to be married, I not only lost my husband, but I lost my church home, I lost my job, I lost my insurance, I lost my benefits, I lost everything.
Right.
And so it really took a miracle sign and a wonder for God to do what He's done over the course of the last 10 years of restoring my credit
Okay.
and restoring my getting a job and growing and progressing in that job, restoring my financial stability. But I'll be honest, that was not the first time that it happened. I made mistakes growing up with credit cards and shopping too much and things like that. And so my level now of trust and dependence on God in the area of finances is, there's nothing that can shake that because I have
Right.
seen Him provide. I've lived, and I wrote about this in a book. I lived in a home, a 5 bedroom, 3.5 bath on the lake home for 6 years. For those years, there was not a single cent that was paid toward that home because my ex-husband didn't have it and I didn't have it. But I stayed there. And yes, it was not the most peaceful time internally for me, but
Mm.
God kept that roof over my head until He positioned me to get somewhere that I could afford, until the house could sell. And so my level of trust and faith in that regard has been tested and proven and tried. And I do not doubt that He is who He says He is and that He'll provide regardless of what happens.
Okay. And then you also went through some health challenges as well.
Still am.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so again, it's life. You
Mm.
know, when we are, I think about when I was younger and I would think like 45, 40, 50 is so old and they
Right.
have everything together. That is not the case.
Right.
But life trusts us with certain things. And for me, one of my testimonies has always been challenges with my health. And that's how I choose to look at it. And so I have been able, again, to test God on it, to try Him as a healer.
Mm.
And some things have reoccurred. And because I know what He's done in the past, I'm able to present myself and represent Him, regardless of what's going on, regardless of how I'm feeling.
Mm.
And again, be a reminder of people who saw me at my worst physically and to see me now, or to know that I'm not my best and to see me now, or whatever is going on, to always be a mirror to who He is and what He wants and what He'll do, even when it doesn't feel like it, or even when your body is trying to tell you otherwise.
Yeah. Wow. And this is just the prologue. So
Yeah.
so let's deal with one of the chapters in your book. Chapter 3 deals with breakups. Let's
Aw.
talk about that.
Yeah. Have you ever been broken up with?
Yeah,
I am
right.
sure we all, and that's something, it's one of those universal life experiences that we can all relate to, whether it be
Mhm,
divorce like I experienced, or teenage boyfriend, girlfriend, or a job that
mhm.
says they no longer need your services, whatever it is.
Yeah,
I believe that it's during those seasons that we are developed for something greater, but that is dependent upon how we respond. So in chapter 3, I try to lay out all of my raw emotions of how I felt through different stages of breakups, but I also try to affirm and reaffirm people that this is not the end,
mhm,
that things will get better, that you can get through this, that here are resources, here are steps, here are tips. Yes, this hurt me, and I'm going to tell you the real deal, full story on how badly it hurt. But then I want you to see the other side to know that you can get there. And for a lot of women in particular, and I unfortunately, talk to a lot of women that have experienced divorce. And I say all the time, I wish my testimony was how to be a billionaire. I would much rather be able to tell you
yeah,
how to be a billionaire or how to change the world and save the world than
right.
how to heal from your heart being broken in manners that minds cannot fathom. But I can. And so I use that chapter 3 to do that, to just let people know you can get through it. You can absolutely get through breakups.
Yeah. And with that, um, oftentimes people try to rush through the process, right?
Hmm.
How important is it to make sure that you take time to heal from those kind of situations?
So in my book, Life Gets Better, I talk about the stages of divorce. It's just like grief. And there's
Okay.
even one that says divorce is like death, but nobody brings you a cake. And that's really it. It is a death of a God ordained union,
Hmm.
and it hurts just like a physical death. But to rush through any process and not allow the grief process to take its full course and to do what God wants it to do in the first place, which is why He allows us to go through it, it is dangerous.
Yeah.
And so I tell people all the time, don't, my grandmother used to say, don't be hot in the pants. Don't
Hmm.
be so fast to try to get your new wife or get your new husband. Slow down. I went through a divorce support group for 2.5 years after my first husband left, so much so they literally kicked me out and
Mm.
said either you come back and you teach or don't come back anymore because you don't
Right.
need us. But I was so afraid of messing up. I was so afraid of opening up my heart prematurely, and I did and made some oopsies, even in that process. But you cannot rush the process. If you've been married and committed to someone for any given amount of time, you owe it to yourself to heal, to get counseling, to get in a support group of people that can healthily remind you of who you are, who God created you to be, what you're capable of, to get your finances together, to get your mind together. And it's a long process. It is a very long process. And if you have children, you need to triple that time because then you've got to be mindful of bringing in another human being into the lives of your children who've already experienced the death of their parents' marriage. So the process is in place for a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, that goes back to the for those who are suffering in silence, how
Hmm.
important it is to get help through the process
Yes. Yes.
and to know that you're not by yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think is important as well
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
oftentimes it's a lonely place, right,
Yeah.
where you feel like you're
Yeah.
the only one, or it's an embarrassing place.
Yeah.
Those feelings all come through, right?
That embarrassment is on you do not know embarrassment until you know the embarrassment of a public, and I say public divorce.
Hmm.
It is like nothing, and the enemy will use that to silence you, to isolate you, to shut you down, to make you feel like you're the only person in the whole wide world that God thought was special enough to allow this to happen to. And that's just not
Right.
the case.
Right.
There are men and women who have walked the path that you're on, who have so much wisdom, some of it from error and some of it from, doing it the right way. But you're not alone in any loss. But that embarrassment, and I'm glad you mentioned that, that embarrassment will silence you literally if you allow it. And you cannot. That is not the time to be silent, and not allow other people in because of what will she think, what will he think, what do they think, are they his friend, are they her friend? That's the time where you open yourself up to be available to people who can help you heal.
Right. So as we kind of close out the matter, I want you to encourage someone who's watching to know that life gets better ultimately, no matter what they may be going through. Especially, we're sitting here in the middle of a pandemic
In a pandemic,
that seems
yes,
to be coming
yes,
back, right, for an
yeah,
encore presentation.
yes,
Talk to the person
yeah,
who is going through where they feel like life can't get no better.
yeah,
Talk to
yeah.
those people even now.
I would just say life gets better. Here I am 10 years later. You could not have, and I have been walking with Jesus all my life. Like I reared in the church. I knew him, period. There was no way in the world you could have convinced me that my life would have gone the way it did in the little detour that it did with my divorce. There's no way you could have told me my credit would have gone from 790 to a number that I'm not even embarrassed. I'm gonna tell you what my number was, from 790 down into the 500s. There is no way in the world you could have told me that, as motherly and as nurturing as I know I'm created to be, that I don't have biological children. There is no way in the world you could have told me that the career that I was really good at being an anchor. I can say that, but that I would not be able to do that, or that I would not be with my church family, or any of the things that life has dealt, the health issues. But I am here still, and better, and excited about life, and not just excited out of faith. I have faith, but I also have some proof behind that faith. And so for anybody who thinks that there is nothing better than where they've been or where they are, the devil is a liar. God's word is true. His promises are yes and amen. Where you are now is merely a detour, a delay, a layover, a stop, but it's not permanent. And so, what it takes to get up out of the bed every day, what it takes to have faith, to put on clothes or put on lip gloss, and I talk about that in the book. At one point, my mom was like, "Stop, enough is enough. Put on your lip gloss, put on some high heels, and keep it moving." What it takes for you to regain and open up your heart again to love, or to apply for that job again, or to finish that book. Whatever you have to do it, once you make that first step, God is like, I'm just waiting on you to do just that, so I can then show you what's on the other side. And I'm here as a testament to say that what's on the other side of any loss or pain that you've endured is so much better, so much better than what we've gone through.
Yeah. All right. Well, there may be some future authors or someone who has aspirations of being an author that may be watching.
Mhm.
What words of wisdom or words of advice would you give to those people who are on the edge of of doing what you have done now?
Don't take 10 years. So I'm looking at my baby now, and I put my picture of myself on there.
Mhm.
Don't take 10 years. Do it. It is your story is somebody's lifeline. I have had ladies, and still to this day, I host a group every Tuesday at 6:30, and it's ladies from all around the country. Some of I've never met, that was launched in a pandemic, that were able to, and I don't, this is nothing on me. This is the group of ladies and God entrusting us to be together, who did not take their life because they were in this circle to say life gets better. It's yes, this hurts. So authors to be who will become authors, come on this other side, put those pens to paper, type out those words, share your story. There is somebody that is waiting on it. And it doesn't even have to be from like a biographical perspective. Whatever it is that's in your heart that is keeping you up at night, that you cannot let go, that's because somebody is waiting on you to let go and give it to the computer and press send to the publisher so it
Right.
can get into our hands. So please don't do like I did and take 10
Mhm.
years. Give it out so it can get into the hands of the people who are waiting on you and waiting on what
Right.
you have to say.
Right. And this is a perfect time to write a book because
Yes, what are
we
you
want
doing? Write a book. It's
we
a
got
pandemic.
right,
It's a
right,
pandemic. Write a
right,
book.
right.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining
Thank
us.
you.
Let the people know how they can keep up with all things Angela, and as well, how can they get the book Life Gets Better?
Yeah, so let me pull out my baby again. So Life Gets Better is available on Amazon. You can just Google Life Gets Better. The blog posts with all 950 blog posts are still up and live. I may start back blogging again, but it's lifegetsbetter.net.
Okay.
So the book available on Amazon, and then the blog posts are available on lifegetsbetter.net.
All right. And how can they keep up with you on social
Yes,
media?
I love keeping up with people. So definitely keep up with me. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Angela Scott Abdur Rasheed, and then via email, Angela Rasheed 316 at gmail.com.
All right. All right. Again, thank all of you for
Thank
joining
you.
us today. Hope you would share this author even today. Make sure someone needs to hear that life gets better. Remember, every Tuesday, 6 o'clock, we do this virtual book club, and we have exciting authors from all over this nation, and we're excited about what's going to happen. Thank you for joining us, and come back and see us next Tuesday.